everyone. It has been a while, and I apologize for that. I will have an update on why that is and what's going on with everything in a little bit, but that's not what today's video is about. Today we are here to talk about Sonic Frontiers. I played it, I beat it, and I want to talk about it. Sonic Frontiers is kind of a big one. It's my first Sonic in quite a long time, actually, and I thought, you know what? Why not make a video about it? Why not give a perspective that might be a little bit unique from a fan who hasn't played a Sonic game in a while and has a bit of a unique relationship with the series. People are really been excited for this one. It's been kind of billed as this return to form for the series. It's been getting a lot of advertising. It's a fresh new look on the Sonic franchise. Obviously, with the heat of the movie lately, it's, you know, Sonic is doing better. He's on the up and up, and people have been really excited for this one. And I must say, the excitement has been intoxicating. It's kind of grabbed a hold of me, and I've thought, why not? Why not join in on the fun? This looks good. I'm excited for it. So let's try it out. Before I talk about the game itself, I do want to give a quick kind of backstory on my journey as a Sonic fan and where I stand. Sonic is a series that a lot of fans take very seriously, which I can really respect. They get really into it, so it's probably sometimes important to know where somebody stands on the franchise at large. If you want to skip this part and go straight to the review, just hit this time code. So I would describe myself as kind of a bit of a weird Sonic fan, a roller coaster Sonic fan, if you will. Maybe a lot of people would say that given their, you know, the quality of the series, but I played the first three. I played Knuckles, I played CD, liked them all, you know, really enjoyed them, but it wasn't until Sonic Adventure 2 Battle that things really changed. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the GameCube was a game that, one of the only games ever that I bought on a whim based on a commercial. It was actually on a commercial that convinced me to buy it. And when I played it, I want to say that to this day, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is probably the video game that I have put more hours into than any other video game. I was about 11 years old, and I played the ever-loving crap out of it. I put thousands of hours. I ate, slept, breathed Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I would come home from school, straight to the GameCube, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Got my friends into it. We made a board game based off of it. We actually became so obsessed, we created our very own card game of Sonic with its own battle system that we came up with the rules for. They were these shitty things on paper cards, and we sold them to other kids for $1, and they bought them sometimes. Little booster packs. It was ridiculous. I was obsessed with Sonic. I mean, truly obsessed. I would say that in my height as a Sonic fan, I was as passionate for Sonic as pretty much anyone has gotten for Sonic, and you know how big that can be. And I did everything in it. You know, I got every single emblem, unlocked Green Hill Zone, put so many hours into the Chow Garden. I got Adventure DX, of course, and loved both, got super into it. Then I got Heroes, liked Heroes. Little let down by the story of Heroes. In the long run, I don't really mind anymore. I think Heroes is a pretty good game. And then after that, kind of fell off a little bit. Actually, quite a bit. Suppose one might say that that's kind of when the series started taking a dive again. But regardless of that, I just didn't go. I didn't get the new releases, and I kind of, my love for Sonic, I still had my respect. It was still close in my heart, but I wasn't really much of a Sonic fan anymore. I started playing other things. And I remember returning for Colors, which I thought was okay. And then Generations, which is possibly my favorite Sonic game of all time. I loved Generations. And then I played Mania. So I played a lot of the recent ones that everyone says are good. And that's where I stand. I didn't play Forces. I didn't play a lot of these other bad ones. I can't speak too much as someone, I can't speak too much on how Frontiers might redeem the series because I haven't been there for some of the rougher eras as of late. But I can give my perspective as someone who had a huge influx of Sonic love during the adventure days, I suppose you could say. So I bought it. I bought it just hoping to have some fun. Sonic Frontiers is a game that is supposed to be kind of this fresh new take on Sonic, for those who don't know. It takes place in this open world where Sonic is in this open area and he can kind of go anywhere, like an open world game, and there's obstacles everywhere, and you know, one minute you're going down, you're on a loop, the other minute you're grinding on a rail, you know, all that jazzy snaz. And it's basically, the idea is like, it's no longer linear, and that's a big new part of it. Maybe there's some inspiration from Breath of the Wild. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. But I would say, starting off with my thoughts, I really liked the game. I really liked Sonic Frontiers. I enjoyed it a great amount. I think, if anything, some people, not the fans, but maybe the critics, and I don't criticize critics much, but I think they're being a little too harsh on it. A lot of the, you know, general consensus, I think, is lower than it should be. I think it's a great game. I've really had a lot of fun with it. But I have some thoughts, and I want to talk about it. I want to start with a lot of the positives and just sort of what the game is, you know, at large. It's said to take place in this open world, but I would argue that it's not really an open world. It's more like, it's kind of like a sandbox game, essentially. The world isn't, each individual world isn't quite as big as you might think. It's separated into zones. I think personally that's a good thing. It means it's more compact. It means there's something to do at every corner, which is great. And you'll get lost in it sometimes. You'll be going here, then you'll be going there, then you'll be going there, and you'll forget, oh, had to be back there. I had to do something back there, but I got so caught up in the level design. But it's not, essentially, I wouldn't call it much of an open world so much as, the way I would describe the game is if you dropped Sonic the Hedgehog into a giant skate park and let him go wild. And it's as if you took a Sonic level, a traditional linear dynamic Sonic level with all the things you expect, and chopped it up and like put it all over the place. And so you get this weird hodgepodge of Sonic ideas, like a Frankenstein's monster, all over the world. And it might look a little weird, but it doesn't really, you suspend your disbelief. It's just, you're just having fun. I had a lot of fun with it. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, sometimes I would find myself getting lost, just literally going on obstacles that perhaps I had actually already cleared, but it was just fun to redo them. I actually would say I probably would have completed the game in a faster time if I wasn't busy just kind of dicking around a lot. And it really is that good at times. I think the open world zone, well, okay, I said open world, but the sandbox zone is the best part of the game. Like I said, you will be dropped into a biome, and you've got, you know, loops there and grind rails there and springboards there, and you're running up walls, and it maintains the speed, which I know Sonic fans will be very happy about. You definitely feel like you're moving fast in this game, and you feel like Sonic. I mean, what else can I say? That's what you want out of a Sonic game, right? Really fun. But my favorite part of the game, for sure, in regards to this open zone, is the sense of variety and stuff you can do, especially regarding the enemies. So first off, there are puzzles. There's like little micro puzzles, so you're always kind of doing something a little bit different. They repeat, and they're super, super easy, which I think kind of a problem. You know, you're never going to be stuck too long on anything, but they're not effortless, and I think that's important. They were still fun to do. So you might be, you might have to hit an hourglass and you have to get to a point that it shows you on time before the timer stops. Sonic things, you know, just sprinklings of Sonic things everywhere. There's another one where you have to run on these pads and you can't run on the same one twice. So you have to figure out the pattern to highlight them all. Reminds me of a puzzle from the end of Persona 5 that I just was recently playing. Or there might be another one where you're kind of breakdancing and it's like a rhythm game where like these pads light up and you have to sidestep onto each pad. Lots of just little fun, cute little puzzles. Like, and I guess you'd call them puzzles, but little activities spread all over the map. But in regards to this sense of variety, the best part by far for me were the enemies and the boss designs. Each enemy is defeated in a different way. There are more traditional, just like hit them a few times enemies, but even that, you have to employ a little bit of strategy into everything. And each enemy is almost like its own micro puzzle. And the best part is, all of them take advantage of a unique ability of Sonic. So you can be running through the overworld and you see this giant squid thing and its tail is this long pink trail. You can see its tail and you find out that if you jump on top of it, Sonic actually starts running on over the pink trail, over his tail, and you have to dodge these fireballs and try to get to the front of the thing, try to get to the actual squid itself, running through its tail, and then you hit it. It's really, really cool, and it just comes out of nowhere. Like you're just exploring the world, and all of a sudden, like I said, it's like you chopped up a Sonic level and threw it all over the place. So you're just running through the world, and you just jump on top of this thing's tail, bam, you're in one of those little linear Sonic levels where he has to, you know, dodge the things. Adventure 2 had a lot of that. But you're just, all of a sudden you're in that. You're still in the overworld, but you're in that now. Really, really cool. So you take another one, right? It's like kind of this spider boss, and you have to grind around these rings underneath the boss. And you have to complete each ring while dodging the little obstacles that it throws at you. Super neat. Another one flies up in the air, and it creates all these like pods leading up to it, and you have to homing attack properly through the pods and not hit the wrong one to get up to the enemy. Just fun, cute stuff like that. That is by far my favorite part of the game. Takes advantage of the best elements of Sonic in the best ways and constantly refreshing. And it helps too that the combat is pretty darn good. Sonic has a lot of abilities at his disposal. He can shoot projectiles. He can do this awesome drop down kick. He has this amazing like spin thing that just does a ton of damage. You'll see when you play it. I don't want to spoil too much of it. That's why I'm being vague. But lots of tools at your disposal. And the best part is all useful in different ways. Some enemies might be much weaker to one thing than another. And part of the fun of the game for me was trying to figure out what's the most efficient way to take this thing down. What should I do here? What should I do there? Good stuff. Combat is good. It's a little button mashy. It's not perfect. I think the collision detection was a little weird sometimes, but for the most part, it was great. You even have a counter at your disposal, which I wasn't a good enough player to really make use of, but I've seen other players really do some impressive stuff with it, where they're in the middle of a combo and you can counter right in the middle of the combo to keep going by breaking the enemy's counter attack, essentially. Hard to explain, but really cool. Dynamic combat. Good stuff. And then, of course, we have the main bosses. There aren't too many of them. The big bad bosses at the end of each zone. There aren't too many of them. But the first two in particular, really, really damn good. Really spectacular stuff going on. You know, it's not the most interactive thing. It's kind of, a lot of it's kind of on rails, but spectacle-wise, really cool. It's an ambitious game. It tries some really neat stuff, some really cool stuff. And these bosses are super fun. I didn't love them all. I did not love them all, but the first two in particular, I think, are a huge highlight. It's a blast. It can be a really, really fun game. And that's kind of the design of it in a nutshell. It's this big, dumb fun Sonic playground for you to fool around with and explore. And luckily, there are collectibles that you can do. There's even a fishing minigame. Yes, it has fishing. There's upgrades. There's all sorts of little things you can find. So it feels like they knew what they had to do to kind of keep the longevity up. And I think in general, Sonic Frontiers very much feels like a game made by people who know what they have to do to make a truly amazing game, but they don't always know how to do it, if that makes sense. And sometimes it is a little shy of the mark. The game is not perfect. It is definitely not perfect. And we'll talk about some of the issues I had with it now. So, like I mentioned, you do have an upgrade system in the game. You can upgrade your speed, your ring capacity, your power, your defense, a little bit more. There's even some skills. There's a skill tree. Lots of stuff to try to keep the experience fresh. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the game falls into the sort of Breath of the Wild trap where the rewards that you're getting for all this exploration aren't rewarding enough to keep you going at times. For me, sometimes I would skip an area because I was like, I don't want to do that, because I know all I'm going to get pretty much is a power seed, a defense seed, just sometimes it's story progress stuff, but pretty much generally just upgrades to Sonic. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, throw some cosmetics in there. You know, throw some weirder, more fun stuff in there. It felt a little one note in that regard. And I have a problem with that in general with games. I think you should always be rewarded heavily for what you're doing, depending on what you're doing. But especially the more challenging things, you should be getting at least a fresh variety of rewards. And Sonic Frontiers is not necessarily one of those games. You pretty much always know what you're going to get. And sure, there's a reward in being able to make your character stronger, and certainly a reward in being able to make Sonic faster. But eventually it grew a little tired for me. I think it's a problem. I also mentioned how the game has fishing, and it also plays into how the upgrade system is flawed, in my opinion. Fishing is broken. Fishing is very, very broken. It's okay. It's incredibly simple. It's almost impossible to lose, but it's there and it's worth doing, and it's okay. It's kind of a it's so easy and effortless that you kind of can just turn your brain off and put on some music while you do it, or just talk to a friend on, Discord or something, which is what I was doing. But fishing is broken because I'm telling you, it's not an exaggeration to say that if you do 30 minutes of fishing in this game, you will have enough tokens, the currency you get, to nearly fully upgrade Sonic. And I was almost done with him before the end of Island 2. Fishing is kind of broken, and you're going to have fishing tokens a lot. It's not hard to get them. So if you're just doing even a little bit of exploration, you'll find the fishing and you will be rewarded for it. There were times where in my head, I was kind of like, well, I could go explore the world to get this mandatory thing to progress the story. But why should I? I'll just go do 5 minutes of fishing and buy that thing I need for the story, buy 20 of them. It's kind of a good thing that it gives you multiple options, but it's really, really overpowered. If you like the fishing, I guess it won't matter. For some people, that won't be a problem. But for me, it just forced me to kind of ignore the world a little bit more, because I could easily do it. And I wanted to see what happened next, so I was constantly moving along with it. And while generally I think Sonic controls very well in this game, it's mostly in the overworld. I think this is the best Sonic has felt mechanically in a long time. Like I said, I haven't played some of the more recent like bad games, but I think he controls quite well in it. But it's mostly the overworld. So the game also has these sections that are mostly required called cyberspace stages, where upon finding the associated monolith in the overworld, Sonic can transport into it, and you basically play a regular Sonic level. They are layouts actually ripped from other Sonic games. Like, literally the same layouts. I don't think it's a big deal. There's nothing wrong with a little nostalgia here and there, especially when the overworld is so good. People were kind of complaining about that. I didn't really mind it. It was kind of fun to go down memory lane a little bit. But I found that Sonic controlled much worse in these cyberspace stages. They're so fast-paced and so keep going, like linear and, like for lack of a better way of putting it, that he doesn't always have the nuance to maintain it. His turning can be very sloppy. Like, oh my God, the turning is very dodgy sometimes. Like, very, very sensitive. Or he will just maintain the momentum way too much, which you could argue is realistic, but it's not fun all the time. Like, oh my gosh, sometimes I'd just be going fast, and I know where I need to go. I know the jump I need to make, but I have so much momentum that I'm gonna over jump it like crazy. And it's like, oh, well, I wish I knew I had to slow down, stuff like that, where he's just, God, he is just a race car. Like, and there's times where you'll try to jump at something and he'll just completely miss the mark or just fly right off the edge. The cyberspace stages for me were very hit or miss. Some of them I really enjoyed, especially the Sonic Adventure 2 ones. It kind of reminded me that Sonic Adventure 2 had some of the better level design in the series. But then some of them I didn't enjoy all that much. Now, there's not too many of them. They don't make up much of the game, so it's not a deal breaker by any means. But the best part of this game, without a doubt, is the overworld. The cyberspace stages feel kind of like an afterthought. Well, we gotta have more traditional Sonic levels in there. And you could argue, yeah, you could. You should, maybe. But they're not perfect by any stretch of the means. And the game, overall, is a tiny bit clunky at times. There were times where he would miss a jump, and I was like, I don't even know how the hell he missed that. Or he would just, like, fly off of something. Or when he hit a wall, he'd, like, bounce right off of it. There's stuff like that. But it's not too bad. Especially in the overworld, it's pretty darn good. I rarely felt cheated by the game. In regards to the clunkiness, the camera can also be a bit of an issue. Now, I played on Switch, and I heard people say that the Switch version is terrible. Personally, I think the fact that I really enjoyed the game, despite the fact that I was on Switch, should tell you that maybe the port isn't as bad as people are saying. I didn't have much of a problem with it. It's not pretty. It's not the prettiest game ever. It's definitely a lot uglier than the other versions, but it maintains at 30 frames per second. It never crashed. It wasn't a huge deal for me. I really enjoyed it. But maybe it is possible that what I'm about to talk about does have to do with the Switch version. But with that being said, because there is a lot of popping, right? And I don't know if it's worse on the Switch version. But with that being said, I think sometimes the camera can work against you in this game. I mentioned that squid part where you're running on the purple path on this squid's tail to try to get to the front of it. And a good example of where I thought the design fell flat a little bit and they needed to polish it a little more was I'd have occasional moments where I'd be running on the squid's tail and you have to dodge these fireballs it shoots out. But the camera is situated in a way where by the time you have a clear view of what you need to see, the fireball is already too close to you. It doesn't adjust on time or flat out isn't at an opportune enough angle to even see what plane the fireballs are on. Are they in middle, right, left? So I didn't have enough time to react, quite frankly. And there are moments like that where where the camera just kind of works against you a little bit. There are supersonic stages in the game as well. They're actually the main bosses. You fight them as supersonic. And let me tell you, sometimes the camera goes wild during these moments where I'm like, where the hell am I? What is even happening? It was bad, but thankfully not constant. It's there. It is the sort of game with just a little bit more polish. You'd have something really special on your hands, but it's still great. It's still great. There is, however, one last negative I want to talk about. And I'm saving this for last because I think this take in particular is probably going to be more unique to me and probably won't be felt as much by other people. But the tone of the game. So you have a story, right? And the story's it's not bad. It's surprisingly deeper and darker than I expected. But it is one of those stories where it's less so a story of things constantly moving and more of a collection of character moments. So each island, you have a character that you're talking to, and each cutscene is kind of a moment between Sonic and that character to expand upon the character, which can be a good thing. There's some interesting observations that the game makes about some of the Sonic characters. Is Tails a burden to Sonic? Knuckles' loneliness, stuff like that, where you're like, oh, that's an interesting point. The story at large it's okay. I don't think it's great by any means, but it's surprisingly not. I didn't skip the cutscenes, so that means something. It wasn't that bad. It certainly, it wasn't cringeworthy. It was just okay. It's a lot of AI trying to understand human emotions. You've probably seen that sort of thing a lot before. But it was okay. I think the strong suit of the game story is the lore and the world building. The enemies are really cool looking. They're these really alien, weird things, and the world in general just kind of has these interesting things sprinkled throughout. And it's cool. It's worth getting into. That's the strong point for sure. But the story is one of the major reasons I think the tone is a problem in the game. So Sonic Frontiers is a blast. It is a wacky, wild run through all these fun, awesome Sonic environments. It's loopy and it's jumpy and I'm trying to be cute, but you know what I mean. But the story is surprisingly dark and kind of lacks a sense of energy to it. It's very much, the characters are stiff in the cutscenes and they're kind of quiet, and it's more just about like slow moments of them walking together than it is about anything like action-y or like Sonic-y, if that makes sense. I don't want to claim that Sonic needs to be one way, and there's nothing wrong with something more dramatic, but for me, it was a big discrepancy. It was a huge contradiction where this world is just a lot of fun to just be around, and then everything else about the game is a lot more serious. And that brings me to the music. The music in general, the soundtrack in general, I think there are some great tracks. There's some great music in this game. But in the game itself, I don't think it works a lot. I think the overworld themes are very slow and moody. And I think they were going for like a sense of wonder kind of exploration thing. But for me, it was weird when you're just trying to have fun as like Sonic and you have these moody, dark tracks. It just didn't fit to me. It's like, I'm going fast. It should be more exciting. It doesn't have to be crazy because it would grate on you, but something a little bit more. Maybe Sonic could have like, he's silent through a lot of it. He sometimes makes comments, but like, I expected, like, maybe he can throw in a wahoo here and there. Just like, act like you're having fun, Sonic. Aren't you spunky? Aren't you like cocky? Sonic is pretty dull in a lot of it. I don't know. That's at least how I felt. especially in the overworld. Like he comments here and there on things, but for the most part, he's just like, it just felt kind of lifeless, and the characters just don't have much energy to them. There's not much energy to any of it, which is funny because then you get to the bosses where they're like these heavy metal or like dubstep or like super fast paced, like lyrical, like extravaganzas, and they're awesome music, but you're like, where did that even come from? I don't know. It's like, it's so different from the rest of the tone of the game. The game's tone is all over the place. Some people aren't going to care about that at all. I like tone. I think it's important. And I think it's a Sonic game that is so much fun to play, but doesn't want you to think it's fun. It's very weird, or it doesn't know that it's fun. It doesn't acknowledge it. Like, I don't know. Just be more lighthearted, in my opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to do something more dramatic and darker, but this wasn't it, at least for me. But that's Sonic Frontiers. Regardless of those negatives, none of them are deal breakers, and it's a great game. I really do recommend this a lot to people who are maybe just trying out Sonic for the first time, people like me who are off for a while, you know. I don't know, I can't speak for much on what the series has been lately, but this is a great game. And it's worth your time. I really like it. And I'm happy to say that we have an excellent Sonic game on our hands. So, big recommendation from me. Great game. Not perfect, but great game. And that's all, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this new review of mine. Like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. Going forward, I'm going to try to be using my YouTube a little bit more. And I'm going to be pushing out some more of these style reviews. I am not someone who's particularly good at more dynamic reviews with editing and voiceover and stuff like that. I have always enjoyed kind of doing a brain dumps like I've been doing here, where I just kind of sit here on camera and just talk about my thoughts. I find it's a little bit more intimate, and it's kind of, I emote and get my points out better. I a lot, but I find that it's the best way for me to get everything out there and let my emotion do the talking. And I hope that that is the case. So going forward, I'm going to be trying to push out some more of these style reviews. I'm not going to spoil what I'm doing next, but I do already have ideas, and I hope you're excited for them. And I hope you enjoyed this review. I'm going to be on YouTube a bit more in general, especially since Twitter is imploding in on itself, so I got to figure that out. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, would love it if you subscribed and, you know, put on the notifications. I'm really excited for where the channel is going to be heading soon, and I'm excited to have you all along with me. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. You all have a wonderful day. Bye.